His idea was openly laughed at to you by industry colleagues, journalists, and investors alike. A man without a single qualified engineer on staff, without any connections in the auto industry, without any experience manufacturing cars, announced that he was going to compete with the world's biggest players. Years passed, and the engine he created set a world record, one that Guinness World Records officials confirmed after independent testing. Not a record for a race car, not a record for a laboratory prototype, a record for a production vehicle already rolling off the assembly line and driving on public roads. There's one technical benchmark that for decades was considered the ceiling for mass-market automotive engineering. The world's largest automakers poured enormous resources into chasing it, inching toward it slowly and carefully, like a horizon that keeps retreating. Chinese company Geely didn't just reach that line, it moved it. The fuel consumption of a Geely production car came in at 2.2 liters per 100 kilometers. To put that in perspective, the average new car on the American market consumes between 8 and 10 liters. The Toyota Prius, a car that has been considered the gold standard of fuel efficiency for decades, uses around 4 liters. Geely came in twice as efficient as the Prius. Guinness World Records conducted independent tests and officially confirmed the result. But to understand why this moment changes the entire logic of the automotive industry, you need to go back to the very beginning, to a small village in China's Zhejiang province, where a farmer's son was born in 1963. In 1986, he borrowed around $3,000 from relatives and opened a tiny manufacturing operation. No cars, no engines, he made parts for refrigerators. A humble start with no signs whatsoever of what was to come. But this man had one quality that outweighed everything else. He never stopped. By 1994, the business had shifted to motorcycles. And in 1997, the company's founder made an announcement that triggered a wave of ridicule across the entire industry. He was going to manufacture cars. No experience in the auto business, no specialized engineers, no major investors, no industry connections. When journalists asked whether he understood how difficult that would be, he responded with something along the lines of, "A car is just 4 wheels and 2 sofas." The industry shook its head and forgot about him. In 2001, Geely became the first private Chinese enterprise to receive a government license to manufacture automobiles. A historic precedent. But the founder was looking further ahead. In 2007, he wrote a letter to Ford proposing to buy Volvo. Ford ignored him. In 2008, he personally showed up at the Detroit Auto Show, and once again, nobody took him seriously. In 2009, he came back more prepared and more persistent. And in 2010, the farmer's son walked out of Ford's headquarters with Volvo in his pocket. The deal was worth $1.8 billion in cash. The global auto industry was in shock. A European brand with a long history had passed to a man who, not long before, hadn't been taken seriously. But even that wasn't the end of the story. In 2018, Geely acquired nearly 10% of the shares of Daimler, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, and became the largest individual shareholder of one of the most prestigious automotive brands on the planet. The boy from the village, whose ambitions an entire industry had laughed at, became the largest shareholder of Mercedes-Benz. Today, the Geely Group owns Volvo, Polestar, Lotus, and a number of other brands across multiple continents. And it was precisely this engineering ambition that led to the creation of the engine we're talking about. But before getting into the technology, it's worth understanding the problem it solves. Electric vehicles were pitched as the universal answer to every question: clean, simple, modern. Reality turned out to be more complicated than the commercials. Even at the best fast charging stations, waiting to charge to 80% takes between 20 and 40 minutes. In cold weather, most electric vehicles lose between 30 and 40% of their stated range. A car with a claimed range of 500 kilometers turns into a completely different vehicle on a freezing January day. Battery replacement over time can cost an amount that wipes out years of savings on fuel. Add to that the strain on electrical grids not designed to handle millions of cars charging simultaneously, and the environmental questions surrounding the mining of lithium, cobalt, and nickel, and the picture stops being straightforward. That doesn't mean electric vehicles are bad. They have a future. But for hundreds of millions of people right now, this isn't a seamless transition. It's a compromise that requires a serious overhaul of how you live your life. And that's exactly where the question Geely asked itself comes in. What if you could squeeze so much efficiency out of a traditional engine that the old rules simply stopped applying? In April 2026, at the Beijing Auto Show, the company unveiled the IHEV system, an intelligent hybrid electric vehicle system. At its core is a 1.5-liter four-cylinder engine. On paper, it looks like a completely ordinary motor for a budget car. But what it does with fuel has no equivalent among production vehicles. The key figure is a thermal efficiency of 48.4%. Let's break that down in plain terms. Every engine wastes some energy. It escapes as heat through the exhaust. It's lost to friction. Thermal efficiency tells you what share of the fuel's energy actually gets converted into motion. The average car converts around 30 to 35% of its energy into motion. Toyota's hybrid engine, long considered the best in the world, reaches around 41%. That was the ceiling. Nobody had gone higher in any production vehicle. Geely hit 48.4%. Now here's the comparison that really puts things in perspective. Formula One engines, the most technically advanced, most expensive to develop piston engines ever built, operate at around 50% thermal efficiency. Teams spend hundreds of millions of dollars to move that number by even fractions of a percent. The Geely production engine, the one installed in a car for an everyday buyer, trails a Formula One race car by less than 2 percentage points. That's not just an achievement, that's a different category entirely. The engine was paired with a 308 horsepower electric motor and an AI-based management system that redistributes the load between the combustion engine and the electric motor in real time depending on driving conditions. The Geely Galaxy M8 completed a standardized test on a closed track. The result, 2.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Guinness confirmed this record separately from the engine efficiency record. 2 official world records from a single program. What does this mean in practice? A standard car with a 50-liter tank at average fuel consumption will cover around 600 kilometers. That same tank at 2.2 liters per 100 kilometers gets you more than 2,000 kilometers, filling up once a month instead of once a week. Long road trips without hunting for a working charging station in the middle of nowhere. No rewiring your home electrical system. No anxiety about losing range in the cold. For comparison, in 2024, Toyota specifically drove a Prius across the entire country to demonstrate the capabilities of its best hybrid technology. The average fuel consumption came out to around 2.5 liters per 100 kilometers. The automotive press applauded. Geely beat that result by more than 12%, and not with a prototype, but with a production sedan. A Geely representative stated it plainly. Their technology has fully surpassed the hybrid developments of Japanese manufacturers. That's a direct challenge to Toyota and Honda, companies that have owned the hybrid space for 3 decades. It sounds bold. But the numbers back it up, and Geely isn't alone here. While the global conversation was spinning around electric vehicles, Chinese manufacturers as a whole made a rapid leap forward in hybrid technology. BYD, the brand that overtook Tesla in global electric vehicle sales, unveiled a hybrid system with 46.6% efficiency and a claimed total range of more than 2,000 kilometers on a single tank and a single charge. Other Chinese brands, Chang'an, JAC, Great Wall, and several others, have released vehicles with comparable figures over the past year and a half. These aren't concepts. They're already on sale. Meanwhile, Toyota's and Honda's best hybrid systems remain at 41%. Most American and European manufacturers haven't broken 35%. The gap between 35% and 48% isn't a competitive disadvantage. It's a technological chasm, roughly the difference between a CRT television and a flat screen. Why does this matter for drivers in Europe and America, not just in China? Geely owns Volvo, Polestar, and Lotus. The company has a joint venture with Mercedes-Benz. Through powertrain partnerships, it licenses its technology to other manufacturers. The engine and IHEV system are already being integrated into Volvo's model lineup. In the coming years, they'll appear in European vehicles and then make their way to dealerships under brands that buyers have trusted for a long time. For people living in cold climates, smaller cities, and places where charging infrastructure hasn't arrived yet, a hybrid like this isn't a compromise. For many, it's the more practical and accessible choice for the next decade. For the auto industry, this is a genuine reckoning. In Detroit and Tokyo, hybrids were considered a transitional technology for decades, a temporary bridge on the road to a fully electric future. Geely just showed that this bridge is significantly longer and more durable than anyone assumed. Companies that wrote off hybrid development risk finding themselves years behind in a technology that hundreds of millions of consumers are going to want. The farmer's son who borrowed $3,000 and was laughed at for the idea of building cars has created the most fuel-efficient production engine in history. The industry that laughed at him in 1997 will now spend the next decade figuring out how to respond to that challenge. The future of driving wasn't decided in Detroit. It wasn't decided in Tokyo. It was decided in Hangzhou. If this video showed you something you hadn't heard about before, hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. And let us know in the comments. If a hybrid gets 2.2 liters per 100 kilometers, would that change your mind away from a fully electric vehicle?